Good turnaround Tuesday, Warriors, and happy turnaround Tuesday to everybody. Who's happy today? Give me a Y. AJ, you happy? Sinatra, Mike? Blake's always happy.
Woot woot.
And Kman he has ice water running through his veins. How you doing, Bran? James? Hi, Ryan. We're going down again in the S&Ps. Okay. A lot of happy guys in here. Hope you're making some pips. All right. So, turnaround Tuesday. Last I looked, Euro was a little bit lower. EG, looks like it might be rolling over for another pullback. All right. So, start off with Ryan. So, Ryan, I was thinking about you actually during the evening session here Sunday.
Yeah,
Because,
hey mate.
how are you, buddy? Hope everything's okay. Because I remember last week you were talking about 115 level being important. So, we got through it a little bit. Is it still worth playing this 15 resistance, even though we got up to where we get up to 1540?
Yeah, I think it went a bit higher than that, didn't it? But yeah,
What?
I mean, it happened yesterday, bank holiday Monday.
73. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the markets shut, low liquidity. I don't trust moves like that. So we're back below it now. I think you need to look at it and see what happens at 115 from this point onwards. And if it shows as resistance afresh, then I think
Yeah.
it's something you got to look at from the short side. But how far you dip is the question. Maybe back down to 114, possibly 113s, or somewhere
Yeah.
in between. But there's nothing to say this is going all the way back down to 110 in a hurry.
Yeah. There's nothing that says it, but I think it will. I keep looking for that book. Or maybe it's maybe it's a song that says things will go to where you don't think it'll go. That's the environment we're in now. So okay. Aussie, one more here, Ryan. So Aussie compared to Euro, Euro, you could really tell the difference when you look at the daily, like how the commodity currencies struggled, to make to gain ground, like
Yeah.
Aussie, like here's look at this uptrend, and then you were talking about it too. So much weaker. So if you wanted to be long the dollar, would you do it against commodity currencies right now?
You'd have to pick
Rupa?
them because, yeah, because the Kiwi's looking much stronger than the Aussie.
Oh,
But Aussie dollars,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're
you can
on this
see,
one. It's
uh,
another one of your wives, isn't it?
don't talk to me about that one. I got stopped out.
Uh,
See when we got those big fat red candles, I got
yeah,
stopped out at 110.25
yeah,
on my short purely because I was thinking at the time if we break back through there, it was going to go back to 111. This was before all the mess. I got
yeah,
stopped out, and then then it's been 300
yeah,
pips further,
yeah.
but I'll cry over old trades. Back to the drawing board. But Aussie dollar, the difference between that and euro dollar is that you've got that big down move. So although it's had a big
This,
recovery, yeah,
right.
that's 500, 600 pips off the low. It that was a bit
That
of a
was a
false move,
crash
if
day,
you like. Yeah. So
tariff
really,
day. Yeah,
if we hadn't had that move, what have we done since? If you ignore that, we're
right.
still in the same sort of area.
Good point.
64.40 was my level when we were
Okay.
making those highs into 64. My level was 64.40 because if you just draw it back, it was when we broke down sort of late in the year,
Oh, yeah.
December.
So
We
here,
held
this
it
is
a
what
couple of
Ryan's
times.
talking about right here.
Yeah, right in there, and then just
Yeah.
before, and then we confirmed after the break. So that's my big level. Um, can it dip? I've actually just bought it while I'm talking to you at 95 because I said I'll give it a little go down here. I think
Okay.
below 63, 85, 80, then it might be a little bit more bearish. But again, I don't see it falling all the way back significantly unless there's a big headline. But it needs to take out 64.40. If it can't do that, then we're probably on for a steeper pullback.
Anything else top of mind for you, Ryan, before I move on to K?
Top of mind, yeah, just this dollar yen is still looking very weak. I'm still a little bit short that from last week and doing a bit of slicing and dicing. If we get under 140, I think my next big level is 138. There's a few bits and pieces on the way there, but 138 is the new 142, 145, 147, that sort of thing.
All right, it's the 200-week moving average too.
There you go, bit of confluence. It all adds up.
And I saw a tweet that if you're trading the yen, the only number you need to know is 138. So that's confirmation
There
that
we go.
38. So I mean, this is potential. Yeah, so it'll break down and hold 38 and then go. But that's a pretty important level. Let me. You have anything to add to what's happening yen wise? Kman, good morning to you, buddy.
Morning, morning, everybody. Morning, Dale. No, not really. 38 three quarters for me. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty decent level there. No, I mean, since we've broken through that three quarters, 4.5, it didn't look back. We actually had a retest and then it continued lower.
Hmm.
Now, for as long as the dollar is behaving as it does, also with those negotiations ongoing surrounding tariffs and whatever effects they may be discussed between the US and Japan, is probably going to stay offered. That's the little risk factor to me. Is that if Japan, as they already hinted, says like we can't do anything about the yen, we are not manipulating it, and I think they may actually repeat that, and that could give a bit of a blip there, back to what is it, 141 three quarters or so, if we would get that, and there we have to see then what happens. But nah, I mean, it's just an ongoing story, right? Weaker
Yeah.
dollar.
Well, we have a throw over technically. People would say it's a throw under. You say
Yeah,
it's throw over on top, but that
yeah,
comes in around 41.10, 41.20.
okay.
So how to trade throwovers is wait for it to get back inside of to negate the throw over.
Mm,
And then over 41.20, then you risk the low. But let it give you a signal if you're trying to bottom pick this.
mm.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about yields. If
I-
we've had this bounce.
mm.
They look vulnerable, like they could decline here. What
Uh,
do you think?
well, I told you. I mean, I think when this whole saga about getting out of everything, U.S. bonds, whatever, is done and dusted, I think we are going to find the top in the yields. Have we found it? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think yeah, after a while it's gonna go the other way around again. That's about what I can say about yields. What the one
yeah.
thing,
TLT is just we pulled back to a very important area to defend 85. So even
in,
TLT looks like it wants to turn back up for
yeah.
some kind of rally here.
The interesting thing is that from now on, Dale, the data are going to be April data, so that are data that should take into account the first at least rounds of the tariff saga. So now from now on, I think data will have an impact again on when it comes to yields. Because yeah, we never know for how long big players are going to have to get out of bonds. But for instance, I saw the data, and we've talked about it on the Flow Show as well, not today, but another day, about the Japanese selling bonds. Apparently, they've been selling foreign read probably US bonds to the tenor of about $20 billion, which compared to their $1 trillion holdings is really a drop in the ocean. So I still think that the market is potentially overthinking the sales of US bonds. Yes, we had a big reaction, but they may be overthinking or overestimating perhaps the foreign US bond selling. And if that is the case, then we may not go back above 450, 460 in the US tens and just trade the data. And if those data start to show any form of weakness, I think that the yields will come back down.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to risk.
I think that one that is interesting, and I know that you're watching $62 on WTI, and I agree with the 62, but I have a very interesting zone there around 63 and a half ish as well, and that to me is going to need confirmation. If that goes, then we're probably going to go higher, and your red line there, 66, $67 is very possible, but
It's a moving average.
I would pay a little attention to what's happening here in the 63s, because if you get a rejection, it may just have been a short-term blip. But
Yeah,
I'm neutral there, but
could be.
I'm just seeing at what happened in the past. We had those kind of jumps and retracements, and then all of a sudden run into a brick wall, and it came back down. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. There've been all kinds of false starts. I mean, really, when you look at crude, it's really done nothing for a long time. Really, it's been quite a range trade actually. Before this recent break, what were we doing for a year and a half, trading between 80 and 65 until the crash? Okay, so
I actually that line, the 63 and a half, 63 is a line that goes from what is it there, the low in November, December 2024 over
that's low.
no in 23, no, so yes, November 23 over September 24, and if you put a line there, you're in the 63s.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we did have a 2 week reversal
Hmm.
last week. So besides the 62 level, if we were closing back under, it looks like 6077, that'd be a bad sign. That'd be a negative sign too. I just thought it was a little bit of a market tell
Yeah.
how it held up so much better with risk off yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But don't forget that OPEC and friends, they will start to up their oil output in what is it, 2nd of May or so they start, or
well,
5th of May or so. So I'm still a bit reluctant, but yes, I
it's
mean
very underowned commodity right now.
it is, it is.
No one likes oil. Yeah, you really, it's hard to go find an oil bull out there on the street.
Mm,
You'll hear a lot more oil bears, $40, $20.
oh well,
Anyway, so we'll see. That's what makes the market.
exactly.
So what about this chop we have here, Blake, in S&Ps?
I put in a pattern in play to get long at 5,100 because we've been
You
talking
called
about
that yesterday. You said it's going to pull back to 5,100.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it
5,100.
did.
Yeah, that was actually the low. The 5,100 to 5,500 is the range I've been looking at. But
Yeah.
I just pulled off the pattern in play this morning because I'm not real comfortable about being long risk. But the flip side is, Dale, there are a lot of bears out there, and there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people, bearish the dollar, and
Yeah.
you look at I just posted in the newsroom like all the economist headlines and magazine covers how dire they are. It's like, all right, guys, maybe enough's enough. I'm not bullish per se, but I sure am we're in a range bound environment. So I think there's still risk that we get to 5,300, 5,500. I'm not excited about trying to chase the market to the downside.
Yeah. It's not a fat pitch anymore.
No,
like it
and
was
nothing.
last year.
A fat pitch, just so everybody knows what Dale's talking about, especially if you're not an American baseball fan, is just, the perfect trade setup right now. We're very much in a range, and nothing looks perfect. Like in baseball terms, a
Yeah,
fat pitch that you can hit down the shoot
yeah.
and get a home run. There's none of those setups are really there. But you've been talking a little bit about Bitcoin, which I find very fascinating because we have broken a descending channel. Here, I'll pull it up and up,
Okay.
but you can talk
All right.
about it
Uh,
because you've been referencing it. And I think this
well,
is a good, go ahead.
I think it was a champion the way it held up.
Yeah.
It did
And it's
not take out that low during the crash, or you know, it
yeah,
acted great.
it just what Dale's pointing out. I mean, it held where it needed to hold at 74,000.
Yeah,
It came out of the descending channel. It held up even as markets were under pressure. It just sat there for like what, 10 days, whatever that is. And now here we are popping out of the channel. We're at horizontal resistance and the 200 DMA. I mean, I think if Bitcoin starts trading above 90,000, I don't want to say it's your indicator, but it'd probably be a pretty good, like, kind of a yellow light that maybe things are gonna
it
continue to
it
improve
broke
a little
down
bit.
first. It broke down first before the market. So maybe it's going to lead it.
Maybe. And look, we're above the 38% retracement. Like I said, we're at horizontal resistance. You guys can all see that there.
Yeah,
And in my opinion, it looks like we could, get there. I mean, this is, you can see all the technical charts we've been looking at the last couple of days. This is a big zone. And now we're at it. You
yeah,
know, that we're there. And I don't want to like be not, I don't want to be like a super bear because I'm not, but these are the little clues that we see in the markets that could suggest that, maybe there is going to be a little bit of a rally. I'm also just so everybody knows here, and I think most people in the Forex Analytics chat room know this. Last night here, if you go over to the trades room, you can see the positioning that I've already started putting in. But if you go over to the general chat room and you just go to Asia last night, because remember this is Ryan and Kman and everybody talking all through the European markets. But last night, I was like I said on the daily roundup, I think the euro is going to underperform here. The euro Aussie down, euro sterling down. The reason why I was saying this is that I think we're going to see a little bit of risk appetite. So you're going to see, the euro start to underperform, where the euro Aussie is probably going to pull back a little bit. You're going to see the euro sterling, pull back here. I know, K-Man, you've been looking for a potential short up here as well.
I am.
I'm already starting to play into these now,
I am.
because I think that risk is stabilizing. I'm not in the camp that we're going back to 4,800 right now. I think we eventually will, but not at this very moment. So, but K-Man, you were talking about the euro sterling yesterday. You still
I
going
am
to try to
short.
play this thing on the short side?
I am short here.
Oh, okay. I actually just got limited out on accident. It was a total accident. I had a bid in at 85.80. I just got triggered and it reversed really quick. I was like, holy crap, I forgot it was even in there. I'll be getting short that again today. But I mean, let's take the pulse of what you guys are thinking right now. Since K-Man, you were just speaking. I mean, how do you feel about risk appetite right now? I mean, you got the S&P, obviously we pivoted off 5,100. It,
Hmm.
looks like it's holding, but how do you feel about where
Yeah,
we currently sit right now?
yeah, we are going to go through those patches where when nothing happens, nothing gets worse. So we may see a bit of rebound in risk. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the commodities itself, I'm really wondering what Aussie is doing here. Should be trading at 65 if you look at the crude.
Right,
But
right.
uh, yeah, I
That's
think
one
we
of the
are going to
risk
go.
flags where Bitcoin's given us the green light. Aussie's given us the Well, don't get too excited here, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. He's such an underperformer, and I'm not sure whether he's going to take off when nobody's watching,
Right.
or if we really are going to struggle with this 64.44 and 64.40 on the Aussie. It does look like it is really, really struggling. Now we are going to go through those kind of patches, but I was talking about it on the Flow Show as well. Strip away all the lines and all the and I know we can't do it because otherwise our charts we can start years of work again. But yeah, as I was saying, we were looking at it with Ryan as well. I said take away all those lines, especially on the euro and things like gold and everything.
There you go. All lines gone. There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was talking in general. You look at the start of the move in the dollar. We are actually in a relatively perfect stepping stairs for most of the things dollars, where you get a move where we stabilize for a bit, and then we get the other move, and then we stabilize again, and every time we think it's the bottom, it corrects a little bit, but then relatively quickly you find those dollar sellers again, which are showing up, which we can go for longer than what at least retail traders think than we can do. And I was saying, and I was giving the example of the euro dollar. We've seen those stepping stones from even when we traded 105s, then 107, then 108.90. I recall we were watching, and then the 112.20 afterwards. They were all like virtually perfect steps, and I wouldn't exclude that euro dollar goes back to 114. But if we start to see bids around there again, that means that the whole picture hasn't changed at all, and that the lazy bids, the bigger money managers, the corporates perhaps, that they are still in the process of, we are going to have to see prior regions where we found bids give way to say the whole thing now can start to reverse and the dollar doing better. Until then, I still think we are just in retracement mode and consolidation, what we've seen already many times in many instruments, and I'm not here to call it a bottom for the dollar yet, by no means.
Okay, and thank you for your opinion there. I want to go to Ryan, but I want to just also point out yesterday, just as early as yesterday, we had another bout of stocks were down. Now, obviously, they found some buyers at 5,100, but stocks were down, the bond market was down, and the dollar was down yesterday. Now, obviously, today it's kind of reverse course a little bit, but just as early as yesterday, we were getting that whole thematic, sell dollars. It was very apparent yesterday. Ryan, how do you feel about where we currently sit? I mean, you look at where equities are at, and we did find some buyers late in the day yesterday, and kind of trying to follow through today. Are you convinced that this is it? What do you do here?
No, I think that the market's showing that it doesn't know what to do next. We had the big down move, we had a rally, got to that 4,800 level. We've rallied back up to 55, and now we're, give or take, sitting much bang in the middle. We're into what next. I mean, obviously we've got a hell of a lot of earnings coming up this week, so maybe the market's got one eye on that. And again, the market will be looking, as it will with the data, to see whether we are going to get some hard data turning. We've had soft PMIs, we've had soft private data, sentiment data, but we're not seeing it in earnings or anything just yet. So that's what the market's going to be looking for, to see if we're getting the effects of all this policy mess coming through in the real economics of things.
Now, speaking of which, what you guys might notice is the dollar is really, firming up here right now, and you can see the euro is actually pushed below the 70s. This reminds me of the price action that we saw down here too. I mean, you can see how we're I would argue that we're probably in a flag or pennant or something. But when you're in a chart pattern like this, and it looks like it's starting to break down, and it just turns. And remember back here, We went as low as 112.50, and we knew that the 112.70 was the breakout point. So we actually probed a little bit below, suckered a lot of people in, and then we ripped higher, and then, you know, it was nonstop after that. I have a feeling that the euro dollar is doing that right now. It's doing a little bit of a wiggle. I think Benedict, who might be listening in right now, he's been in our chat rooms for 20 years now, almost. We always call it, shaking the tree. It's kind of like the market grabs you by the ankles, pulls you upside down, shakes you really hard, tries to get all the change out of your pockets before letting you go. And it feels like that the euro might be doing that right now. We might be getting that little, just kind of shaking the tree, seeing, trying to see how many week longs are out in the market right now and how many we can get out of the market. So keep your eye on the euro. I think it's going to be pretty important here. We have just a few minutes. Do we have data coming out today? By the way, I don't think we do. I think today is kind of
only Canada industrial production and Philly Fed services.
all right, but that is not up. It's not up at the hour, right? It's not. It's like at the half hour mark.
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Oh, it is in 4 minutes. Oh, yeah, we have RMPI. And what else do we have?
Philly Fed services, which is never on anyone's calendar.
Oh, okay. Well, then, well, I guess we'll pay attention to it. Dale, what are you thinking today where we're currently at? I mean, going back to our conversation, what are you going to do here? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm short euro. I'm
Okay.
long the dollar. I'm short Aussie. I'm looking for Dixie to rally back to par, maybe 101, and then break one more time towards 96, and then a better rally in the dollar because that'll be completing this first wave down. That'll be, and then we take a look at what it means. There's some bulls that think that this whole thing, if you pull up the weekly, is just a big corrective thing from 114. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. I was talking about Dixie, but
but they give you a very
it's all
similar,
right.
except we're not
Yeah.
close to that rising trend line yet.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, there you go. So there's a trend line, but that, that was a down last year. And then you have equality here at 86, and that this is just a big correction up here, and there's another big rally phase coming.
Speaking
So
of equality, Dale, this is the AB, this is the
96.
CD, and it would take us down to about 96 if we
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
what I just said. A bounce here to 100, then one more push down towards 96, and I think that completes it.
Okay.
So that's where my head's at. And I'm still long crude. As long as it holds that $62 area, I'll stay with it.
Now, I mean, you look at gold, and we're in this acceleration, could be a blow off top type of scenario, but you can see obviously just, accelerated state here. We basically completed a bullish pennant. That we've been looking for this since last week, and we came within a few dollars. But Dale, when you start getting to these levels, you're going to get sellers just lined up all over the place, right? So you never quite reach the target because you got so many people, just sitting there ready to sell as you're getting to this big figure 3,500 level. Well, we hit 3,500. I wouldn't be surprised if gold's just kind of topped here for the day, and that could be one of those other tailwinds that you have for the dollar. Is if gold's actually peaked, you can see the dollar kind of firm up from here, right?
Yeah. So, well, maybe it comes off on peace that we don't have. We do a deal with Iran.
Yeah. Speaking of which, nothing's ever really unfolded with Iran, has it? Yet, anyway.
No, they're meeting. They're trying to work it out. Blake, I'd rather be wrong on my calls than be right with war.
Yeah,
there
right.
are other reasons.
Yeah.
There are other reasons why crude could go up besides hitting Iran, and those reasons I have no idea what they are yet. But the reporters will tell me why crude goes up after the fact.
Yeah, I agree.
They'll
Okay,
have all the reasons
I
that they
agree
didn't
with
have
that.
today, you know. So
Agree
that's
with that.
trading, guys, you know.
It is. Hey, Ryan, Kman, I know Dale's got an interview right now. Ryan, what's your number one on your radar today? What are you looking at? What are you looking to trade?
A couple of things. Dollar MEX, if it breaks 1963, and Aussie dollar, and managing everything else I've got.
All right, Kman, one trade for today. Oh, he already left. All right, Blake, one trade for today. Yeah, I'm selling euro sterling. So, just continue to focus on that, even though I got limited out on accident. I totally forgot I had an order out there. As I mentioned in the trades room, when I got limited out this morning, I was like, whoops, that was a mistake right here. So I'm going to reshort the euro sterling today. So if you want to know what else we're doing, just always go into the trades room and to the Forex Analytix community. This is our chat room. This is where we are all talking about the markets. And remember, we have our liberation offer. That means that we have 40% off, and we've never done that before. 40% off our monthly subscription. We have basically backed up our prices 5 years on a month-to-month basis. So lock that price in because we keep people grandfathered in for as long as you stay active. So Dale, is Larry is here.
Larry's here. Keep in
Larry's
mind that
here.
liberation, when what we're talking about is not that you can go around rallies. Okay. So just keep that in mind.
Well, hey Dale, have a great interview with
All right.
Larry
All
and
right.
Ryan. We're glad you're back from your Easter month-long holiday. Welcome back. He
Yeah.
always harasses us like, oh, the one holiday we have a year, which is Thanksgiving. He says we have a double Christmas. Yet Ryan takes off like 3 months out of 12 months every
Do you
year.
want the good news, Blake? We've got a bank holiday in 2 weeks.
Oh, for Christ's sake, Jesus, Ryan.
Anyway,
All right.
anyway, thanks, Kman, and thank you, Ryan, for making another guest appearance.
What?
And
Thanks, dude.
thanks, Blake. All right,
See you,
guys.
coach.
All right. Larry, how are you, buddy? Wow, I wanted to talk to a trend trader here.
Dale, good morning.
In
How
a
are you?
good, buddy. So, action we haven't seen in many years. Um, I know you're mainly a trend trader. Tell me how you handled this 20% correction in S&Ps and almost 30 or more in NASDAQ over the last few months.
Yeah, it's been a tough market. You can see my screen, right?
Got it, buddy.
So it's been a tough market, and part of what the challenge has been is just been the speed of the breakdown. The
Yeah,
S&P's down what 15% off the highs, and I think at the low it was down about
20.
20%. And
Yeah.
that move happened in less than 2 months. And in 2022, I think that move took, 6 or 8 months. So it's just been a really fast breakdown. You've got to be really nimble. I had a bunch of stops that got hit on some things. And but I've got stuff that's been working like gold and gold miners. So it's really just trying to right now limit the drawdown. So I've got a lot more cash than I usually have. I've got some triple Q index puts, which I probably haven't had in, at least 3 years. So it's been a tough market. There's no doubt.
Okay. So let me ask you, when I used to raise money for CTAs, Larry, to me, a lot of people look at, oh, look at the performance, only look at those numbers. To me,
Right.
what was important was how the money manager handled drawdowns.
Right.
Okay, what were the draw? Did you go through a drawdown during this kind of a
Oh, of course.
7 week bear market?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Anyone who didn't go through a drawdown, they did quite a good job. But yeah, I had a lot of really long-term positions that I had for like 2 years, like Nvidia,
yeah,
Facebook, Triple Q. So, because I'm a trend follower, like you said, I've been holding those positions for quite a while. So yeah, I went through some drawdown in a lot of those positions.
okay. What your model account? What kind of hit did it take?
Oh, the drawdown off the highs, I'm probably down 12 to 15% off the highs right now.
Less than the market.
Well,
That's what
yeah, a
I
little
thought.
bit less than the market. And like I
Yeah.
said, because I tend to look more at how I do at the end of the year because I'm not a short-term trader. So if I was a short-term trader, I would be much more dialed into, how am I doing on a daily basis? How am I doing on a weekly basis? But because of my time frame, I held Nvidia for 2 years, and I think I made, I don't know, 200 or 300%
Yeah.
overall in the trade. But by the same token, I took a pretty big drawdown from, the peak was 152.
Yeah.
I sold most of my Nvidia in the 119 to 130 range, but I held some of it down to under $100. So because I'm a trend follower, and what you'll see with a lot of trend followers is they will go through some steep drawdowns at times. But
When
I'm,
the trend changes. When the trend
exactly
changes.
right. Yeah, I mean, if you're a long-term trend follower and you're holding a stock like Nvidia for 2 years, you're not going to get out at the top. Maybe you get lucky and you scale a little bit. I tend to scale in and out of my positions. I don't go, I rarely go all in and all out. I tend to, move in smaller increments. But yeah, if you're a trend follower, there's been some big drawdowns in some of these positions, but there's been some nice winners. The gold miners have been big. But
Yes.
I'm confident that by the end of the year, things will be where I want them to be.
Okay. Well, good to have confidence, and good to have stops.
Yeah, stops are key, and it's anything. I look at trading and portfolio management. It's a lot like a football game. You're not going to complete every pass.
Right.
Every so often you're going to fumble, you're going to get sacked. But at the end of the game, you want to win the game, and that's what I look at. So I look at the course of the whole year, and I
Okay.
just know that, in a big drawdown like we've had, anyone who hasn't had a drawdown generally must have, I would expect they'd have a very short-term time frame, and that's fine too.
All right. Well, here's the $1 million question. Was that it at 4,800? And we're just going through a healing process after being through a car wreck and can generate another rally that could take us to new all-time highs, or has the bear market begun?
See, it's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I'll tell you this. I look at it two different ways. From a technical perspective, if you look at this big green bar where
Yeah.
I've got my crosshairs,
Yes.
from a technical perspective, that was the highest volume week in the S&P 500 in 14 years.
Yeah.
Not in the SPY ETF.
Capitulation.
The index in the SPX itself, that was the highest volume week in 14 years, and there was a big, massive selling flush and reversal. So, from a technical perspective, many bear markets have ended like that.
Right.
High volume, selling flush and reversal, clears out the stops,
Breath
shapes of,
thrust.
yeah,
There's a
exactly,
big breath
everything.
thrust. Yeah. You
Everything.
got.
So from a technical perspective, that's how most bear markets end. The problem is we're in a cycle right now where there's no real historical perspective. There's no blueprint. We're going into possibly, this global trade. The media calls it a global trade war. We can call it tariff negotiations, whatever we want to call it. We're in uncharted waters right now where it's basically, the US negotiating versus the rest of the world. And the challenge is you've got higher than forecast inflation. The inflation is still above the Fed target. So you don't have the Fed as a backstop right now that's willing to run in and cushion the blow. So I don't know the answer. Technically, that's how most bear markets have ended, but we just don't know where we're at. We don't know what's going to happen with earnings. I've got over 20% cash, which is a lot for me. I've got some triple Q puts in case the bottom comes out there. So I don't have the answer, and I'm just, it's the market to me, it's a more vulnerable index when you're trading underneath the 200-day You're underneath the 50-day. We can't even get over the 20-day right yet. So I'm staying very defensive. I've got, obviously I've got positions, but I'm pretty defensive right now.
Okay. All right. So we need that close back over, that's the spider on the futures 5,500. So
Yeah,
it's around the
exactly
same.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need over 5,500. We need to get over that 20-day. The fact that we can't get over the 20-day yet, that says that the downtrend is still pretty strong, but it
Yeah.
will take a lot, I think. Here's what you're looking at. That 48.35 low on SPX that we hit like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was negative, the maximum pessimism. So I've got to tell
Okay.
you, that Sunday night when the futures were down 5%, that was the most pessimistic that I've personally been since 2008. And I was on my members website and I told, people, I said, listen, in the worst case scenario, you're probably looking at 4,000 to 4,200 on SPX. Now, we got a little bit lucky. The 90-day tariff pause news came out, and at least that took I think the worst case scenario off the table. But we just don't know. We don't know how these tech earnings are going to go this week, and I think you've got to stay defensive. But there's always, things that are working.
Yeah. So let's go there, Larry. What's working in this environment? We know the miners have.
We
I know
know
you're going
about
to go there.
gold. We know about gold miners. And Dale, I've got to tell you, man, I booked some gains in gold and GDX, maybe 5% lower than because my chart said they were extended. This gap up right here, I think it was this gap. I booked some gains. I'm still holding most of the positions, but I dialed back like 50 basis points from each position, but they keep going. And I think, what the bus driver is the US dollar. And I'm not an expert on the dollar. I know that you are, and your team is, but I know how to read charts. And, it's just been in a breakdown downtrend, just
Well, you
lost.
could overlay that on the cues and they'd be identical.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was on TV the other day and what I told the host is I think that the cues what I think you've got going on right now, and I could be wrong, but we all have a premise that we work from. So I think that you've got a lot of foreign investors that are bringing their money back home
Yeah.
because of what's happening with this entire tariff news cycle. And I think that the triple Qs and Apple, Facebook, those stocks, I think that's where a lot of big foreign money just park their money for the US stock market. And I think that's why you're seeing because
Luke Roman said it was the Chinese. And when we started the tariffs, we were telling them we don't want your money. And
yeah,
they
it could be. Could be,
started
and it could be
liquidating.
anyway. The world's a big place. Japan's got a lot of money here. Europe's got a lot of money here. But what you're seeing is that these Mag 7 stocks, they're underperforming the index, and they're even underperforming. If you look in tech, there's a lot of very good charts that have held up much better. Palantir's up 22%, Apple's down 20% or so. Netflix is a very good chart.
It
That
looks
really
like it's
hasn't.
going to new highs,
Yeah,
Netflix.
yeah. So what I think you're seeing with these Mag 7 stocks is I think that there was a lot of foreign money, and it could be US money too. But I think they're just taking their money out of the US markets, and you're seeing that in the Mag 7.
Any interest in oil? I bought oil on the crash day,
I
and
don't
I'm
I don't, because I'm a trend follower, but you and I, keep in mind, you and I trade pretty much different time frames, and I think you do a lot of mean reversion trades. And you could be right because it's gotten blown out. I mean, Crude's gotten blown out, Chevron, those energy stocks. And for a mean reversion trade, it could definitely work. For a trend follower, though, there's nothing there.
okay. All right, and where are you at on rates like TLT? Looks like under 85, it's a disaster, but it keeps trying to hold it. Is there a
Yeah,
bond rally
TLT is
coming?
trying to hold. I've got a small position in TLT. I'm underwater in it right now, and where they got me with TLT was this move right here. where it started to come over the 200-day moving average.
Yeah, and that was a Friday.
Yeah, I think it might have been. And then we came out with the with the tariff announcements, and they were much higher than we expected. So the problem, TLT's got two problems. So, if you expect an economic slowdown, and here's what I'll tell you, the stock charts are pricing in a pretty big economic slowdown. The bond market, the bond charts are not, and I think the reason is you've got inflation concerns
Supply.
from tariffs, and you got a ton of supply. I still think foreigners are dumping treasuries, so I'm hoping they don't find my stop here. But bond yields right now, the trend for bond yields is up.
Okay.
I'll tell you this
With
though,
you.
there's places to make money. You know, in
Biotechs.
in the stock market, about 30% of the S&P 500 is up year to date. And I just did a scan
Are they
before we
foreign
got on.
companies?
What's
Foreign
that?
company? Are they foreign companies like this?
No, it's defensive stock. So
Okay.
I've got a recent buy in BTI. It's got a 8% forward PE is 8. It's got a 7% dividend. I've had Altria for a while. Same thing. That's a nice uptrend. But
Did
what's
you
working?
did you talk to Sir James Goldsmith before you bought BAT?
I wasn't able to get a hold of him.
You know who he is, right?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
That's
He
probably why I
started
couldn't get a
he
hold of him.
started the company. Anyway, I read a
Yeah,
book about him. He
you know,
lost his hair. Huh?
tobacco stocks, and this is Kroger. It's a supermarket stock. It's up 18% year to date, 14 times PE. But you see, here's what's happening. You see these uptrends, right?
Yeah.
So fund managers, according to the Merrill Lynch Global Fund Manager Survey, they're still only about 5% cash. So, a lot of fund managers have
Just
to stay
rotated.
mostly fully invested.
Yeah.
They can't go to 50% cash and things like that. So they're moving into, defensive stocks. And that's why I say that if you look at the stock market where you've got supermarket stocks up 18% year to date, and you've got the semis down 21% year to date, the stock market is forecasting, whether it's a slowdown or a recession, we don't know. And we just have to see,
That's a good looking chart where you could be wrong under what 160. But you know, to me it looks like it could happen quick. If we're going to get a rally, it's going to be something that comes out. I don't think it's going to be a grinder. I think that they could, there's so much bearishness, and people would have to come back in after liquidating, that there
yeah.
could be a buying panic being set
Well,
up
we saw
here.
that 2 Wednesdays ago when the Nasdaq was up, what was it, 12%?
Yeah,
So you could
yeah,
get it, but still, you see what I do is, let's say there is a buying panic for whatever reason, right? Maybe we get a headline, I would still rather own a stock like Palantir, which
yeah.
did not get, completely blown out. I would much rather own a stock like that or own a stock like Netflix if there is a buying panic. These stocks that held up much better, they've got a lot less work to do to break out to new, even a stock
Were
like CrowdStrike.
were there
Something,
many? Were there no? Okay, that's a better example. It held the low.
yeah.
So did you screen it for stocks that did not make new low on the crash day, as being, relative strength leaders to look at? Because
Yes.
they were not
Yeah.
a they held prior lows during the crash. That
Yeah,
was that.
and the first screen that I run, so the first screen I run is any stock that's trading over, the 50 and the 200-day moving
Right,
average. There
right,
hasn't been too many though.
right.
So
I'm sure.
so I have to dial my screener back to anything that's trading over the 200-day. But obviously anything that's trading higher scores better. Bitcoin looks like it's ready to break out.
Yeah, we were talking about that this morning. It really held up like a champ
Yeah,
on a
Bitcoin
relative
looks like
strength.
it
Yeah,
needs over, if it clears 90,000,
yeah,
90,000 is the big number. If it clears 90, But the thing I like about Bitcoin is it's held up much better. You see,
Yeah,
Bitcoin made the low right after that tariff news.
right.
But since then, it's, money's been moving there. And maybe, money that's moving out of the US is going into Bitcoin. I don't know, but it's an improving chart.
Well, a crashing dollar, an alternative currency,
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Best idea, Larry, going forward for maybe like a few month hold that you like.
I'll tell you, Dale, we get a headline at lunchtime today and everything can
Yeah,
get turned upside down. But, from a trend perspective, as far as all the markets we're talking about right now,
yeah.
gold is the strongest, but I'm
Oh,
concerned, like everybody else, that it's gone
crowded.
parabolic.
Well, they say
So
it's the most crowded trade since Nvidia.
yeah, it's hard to, to really put a lot of money into gold where it is.
Congratulations on being able to sit.
Yeah, thank you.
I owe it. It's so tempting when something goes parabolic or it's been uptrending before it goes parabolic to book it and
Yeah.
then watch the windfall
Yeah,
without
this
you.
this has been a nice one. This is I took about 20% gains in here. I'm still holding most of it, but I sold it a little bit lower, but that's okay. Listen, it's rare you're going to buy the exact bottom and sell the
Yeah.
exact top. If I
You
can
know,
make
if you notice the shares are weaker than what the physical did. I mean, just the charts
always, yeah,
always.
it's
Okay, there you go.
been like that for now. It could catch up. Like GDX is not as parabolic as gold has been, but I would expect if gold, maybe it is
Yeah,
now.
yeah, it
But
is
I,
now.
I like the trend on Bitcoin right now,
Yeah.
as far as a big market. And then
Okay.
everything else, Dale, it's just too hard, I think, to forecast, the next couple weeks. But I would say, and what I've been telling, my subscribers is just stay defensive, hold more cash, move really small, don't try to be a hero with anything, and just expect, 2 to 3% ranges at any time.
Okay, so you could tell that Larry is risk aware. He had stops, he had a drawdown. I think a lot of people be happy with only a 10% drawdown right now.
Yeah, it's probably closer to 12 to 15. I've got to tell you, I don't micromanage and measure my drawdowns like I said, because I'm not a
Well,
short-term trader and I don't I'm not managing other people's
look,
money.
Larry,
But
well,
what
how
I
much were you up last year? Let's
30
really put it, huh?
Yeah, I was up 36%
Okay,
without cash management and 31% with, because I had a little extra cash. So I run two portfolios on the members website, and I'll
yeah,
post one, all in, fully invested all the time, and one, where we've got some cash management. But 31 to 36% on the posted portfolio last year.
okay. So you gave back some profits,
Yeah,
and
it's going to
and
happen
you know,
though.
I kind of think that disclaimers should be the opposite of what they are. They say that past performance is not indicative of future results. I believe past performance is indicative of future results.
Yeah, it usually is.
Don't
And,
you?
and
I
like,
mean,
well, it's like you said, the key thing that I'm trying not to do right now is I'm trying to not get blown out and
yeah,
not lose a lot of money. Because,
yeah,
if you underperform one year or whatever, it's okay. But the thing that's not acceptable to me is to lose a lot of money.
yeah,
So where I got to on my drawdown when I look at the account, it's about as far down as I want to go.
yeah,
So, like I said, I've got over 20% in cash. I've got some put. So, listen, on a big rally, right? On these big rally days, like when the S&P was up 9%,
yeah,
my account was up about 4.5%. So on the big days right now, I'm going to underperform.
right,
On the down days, I'm doing great. You know what I mean? So really
yeah,
just what I'm trying to do right now, you've got to decide, do you want to be a hero or do you want to be here in 6 months? And
yeah,
I want to be here in 6 years. So where I'm at right now is just don't lose a lot of money, get through this very difficult period, And then, if the S&P gets back up here and everything is a green light and, we can go crazy and put it all in micro strategy, then we'll go from there. But,
Yeah.
right now for me, this is the type of a market. Don't lose a lot of money and then figure everything else from there.
A pro, Larry Tentarelli. Larry, you want to show your website? You have any deals going on?
Yeah, you
For
can
your
you can find me on Twitter. It's at Blue Chip Daily. And I've been on there for a while. I post quite a bit. You can find me on the website. It's bluechipdaily.com. We've got a 30-day free trial. People can, join for free for 30 days. If you like it, you can, stay on. And if you don't, at least you know what we're doing. But it's been a pretty good year. I've got to say, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from subscribers, and they said, thank you. I'm still in the game. And,
yeah,
thank you. Because listen, you know me, I was the NVIDIA bull. I was the NVIDIA poster child, for 2 years. But if you look on my Twitter feed, I started to go cold on all these AI stocks when that DeepSeek news came out in January.
yeah. I
And
remember. I was in puts,
yeah,
NVIDIA puts that day.
yeah,
Yeah,
and once that happened, once that DeepSeek news came out in January, I got stopped out of a ton of, AI stocks. A lot of them were profitable. A lot of them were losers. But Dale, I sold stuff on the members website that since I've sold it, it's down 50%, 60%. We sold,
yeah.
and sometimes, like you said, knowing what to sell. I think I sold this on the members website at 120 bucks
Yeah,
and it's 55 right now. So, at
yeah,
some point you have to know when to
yeah,
sell stuff and when to stop buying stuff.
yeah. And so, Larry, you pulled the plug on stuff that could have hurt you.
Yeah.
So, good job. I was looking forward to talking to you about it because I know your investing style, and good job is what I would say.
Hey man, we're
And
we're Dale, we're still here and just,
yeah,
sitting tight and waiting. This market could turn tomorrow. It could take 6 months. Nobody knows.
how
But for
about
now,
seven? How about 7K by the end of August in S&Ps
7K for the S&P 500.
by August?
I will send you a Rolex watch. Got to be August of
Uh,
this year. It can't be August in 20
okay, August of this year.
August of this year. All right, I better start looking for some Rolexes just in case.
All right, man. And no, none of those fakes either. No
Oh, well,
bogeys.
that's a different story.
Larry Tentarelli, great talking to you.
Dale, you
Yeah,
too.
yeah, Larry likes Bitcoin related stocks here, and the charts are looking pretty good.
Just keep your
And
seatbelt on with these
yeah,
Bitcoin stocks. But yeah,
yeah,
micro strategy looks like it could be ready to go.
yeah. So there you go. Options, limit risk on things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Larry. Find Larry at Blue Chip Daily on X and check him out. I've been talking to Larry for years, and what I like about Larry is he's not a revisionist. When he's wrong, he says he is. And if you're following people that never say they're wrong, run. And that's a wrap for me. Remember, don't just count your shares, count your blessings. And Larry, appreciate you being here, my trading warrior brother. And good hunting, everyone, on Turnaround Tuesday. And let's have a pop in the dollar. And I'll talk to everyone tomorrow. Adios. Join the team in 17 minutes on the morning edge. Thank you, Larry. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Dale, thank you. Thank you for having me on, and I'll talk to you the next time.
All right, buddy. I'll send you a DM.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Adios, everyone. Good hunting.